Hi, and welcome to The Art of Film Funding. I'm your co-host, Claire Papin, along with writer-producer Carol Dean, author of the best-selling book, The Art of Film Funding, and host of this show. Carol is the president of From the Heart Productions, a nonprofit organization that has supported filmmakers with the Roy W. Dean Grant, fiscal sponsorship, education, and resources for over 30 years. Carol also teaches the Learn Producing class. Each class features an industry expert guest instructor and is designed to give the information, guidance, and support to become a successful producer. You can learn more about this class and all of From the Heart Productions offerings at FromTheHeartProductions.com. Today we are joined by our guest host, filmmaker Heather Lenz, best known for directing and producing the Sundance documentary Kusama Infinity. Our special guest today is Julie Hebért. Julie was born in South Louisiana. She's written and directed dozens of plays for some of the most daring theaters in the country, including Steppenwolf, La Mama, the Magic Theater, Los Angeles Theater Center, and many more. Her plays have received many accolades, including 2 Penn Awards for drama. After her musical drama Ruby's Bucket of Blood was optioned by Showtime and Whoopi Goldberg, Julie wrote the screenplay, which was made into a film starring Angela Bassett. It was the first of many scripts Julie has written for film and television. She's written and directed for several hit television shows, including Nashville, The Good Wife, Boss, Blue Bloods, The West Wing, ER, Numbers, and most recently the Emmy Award-winning American Crime, where she's an executive producer. Julie has received grants from the NEA, TCG, AT&T New Plays, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Alexander Gerbode Foundation, and the California Arts Commission for Writing, Directing, and Interdisciplinary Arts. Julie is also an activist who founded Look What She Did, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that creates short films and events featuring female storytellers, celebrating women who inspire them. Today we'll discuss Look What She Did and how Julie is helping to bring to light stories of remarkable women who have changed the world.
Well, thank you so much, Claire, for the lovely introduction. And thank you, Julie, for being here with us today. For anyone who hasn't heard about Look What She Did, can you please tell us what it is in your own words and what inspired you to start the organization?
Oh, hi, and thank you both. What a lovely introduction. I appreciate that so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
So Look What She Did is, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, which we started it 10 years ago in my backyard. And it is a small nonprofit where we make short films about amazing women you've probably never heard of. And we do this by having a woman tell the story. So we find a woman, get her on camera, and she tells us the story with her own passion about a woman that inspires her, that has meant something very important in her life. And then she tells that story, and we do it in about 3 or 4 minutes. So we have over 160 of those films at this point, and we're making more. The original vision was 1,000 films as a kind of testament to female achievement through history. So we're on our way with 160. So we've got quite a ways to go, but we never seem to run out of material. We never seem to run out of amazing women who have not been properly celebrated. What started this, let's see.
Okay.
So how it started was I went to jury duty downtown Los Angeles in a building named after a woman I had never heard of, Clara Shortridge Foltz. my friend Jill Klein, she'd been to jury duty recently, and we're like, who is this woman that has a 17-story building named after her? And we've never heard of her. We look her up, and she absolutely blows our mind. And we can't believe we've never heard of her. So Clara Shortridge Foltz was a young woman from Oklahoma, got married, had 5 children. Her husband carried them all to California and then abandoned them. So in the 1880s, I believe it was, something like that, here's this young woman in her 20s with 5 kids, no family, in a new state. And she decides she wants to go to law school. So she applies to law school. They let her in for 10 days, and then they say she's too distracting to the other students. She's too distracting to the men because she's a female. So she sues them, and it takes everything she's got. It takes like 5 years for the suit, but she wins. But by the time she wins the right to attend law school, she doesn't have the money to pay for it anymore. So Clara Shortridge Foltz simply takes the bar exam, passes it, and becomes the first female lawyer in California without ever going to law school. This is how bright this woman is. And that's not her major accomplishment, I'll just say. That's just the landscape of Clara's life. She then gets a job as a low-level prosecutor. She can't get hired anywhere. She, just like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that happened to her. But so she gets a job as a low-level prosecutor, and she's prosecuting debtors and drunks and prostitutes and just, tiny little, and she's putting everybody in jail, she realizes, because nobody knows their rights. Even when they have the right to get away, they don't use it because they don't know about it. So Clara Shortridge Foltz envisions the public defender program, and then she lobbies to have it turned into law in California. She lobbies to have it turned into law in New York and all across the country. Now we're in the 19-teens, and she's also a suffragette, but she is basically the mother of our public defender program. And that's why we should celebrate her. That's why we should know about her. She also, in her later life, in her 80s, became the first woman to run for governor in California. So she was an amazing woman. And Jill and I thought, how in the world have we not, we've educated women, we're feminists. How did we not hear about this woman? What could we do? So ultimately we came up with, it's a vast problem to adjust history, women's history. But what we can do is start small and immediately in the backyard. We borrow a camera. We get my friend Courtney to join us, and I interview Jill talking about Clara Shortridge Foltz, and we put it on YouTube. And that's the beginning of Look What She Did. We had such a good time doing this in my backyard. Just, I don't know, it was just, we just did it on a weekend. We borrowed the camera. We had this wonderful afternoon laughing and telling this story and put it on YouTube. We wanted to do it again. So a few months later, we did it again with a borrowed camera in my backyard. And we invited 5 or 6 other women to tell stories of women we'd never heard of that blew their minds. So what we don't do is tell somebody who to talk about, because we want to hear about new women that we don't know about. So we invite them, these 5 or 6 women, and say, bring us a story of an amazing woman that really means something to you, and we're going to tell it. And then so that's what we did. And we put that on YouTube. It started to get traction. So my friend Farrell Levy, who's a professional editor, edited these for us. We had him on YouTube, and we started to get traction. So ultimately, we became a nonprofit about 1.5 years later, so we could apply for grants and get some support so we could pay our crew to do these. And as I said, now we have over 160, 10 years later.
This is such an inspiring story, and I love that you just, made it happen, in your backyard with your friends and borrowed equipment and everything. And these are, you've talked a little bit about how many you've made, by now, and these are short videos. Could you talk a little bit about the length in general, how long they typically are, and the pros and cons of making short videos?
Sure. So we make them, they're all under 5 minutes. They started off at about 3 minutes, and over time we've grown to about 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes, sometimes depending on the film itself. So what we do is we can film 6 interviews in a day in the backyard. First of all, because we film in daylight, so we don't have to do very much lighting setup, which saves a lot of time. But we spend about an hour on each interview. So our raw footage is somehow less than an hour. It's probably about 30 or 40 minutes. And then we edit that down to, as I said, about 4 minutes. And the benefit of that is more people will see short videos then, and we can make, as I said, part of my vision and intention for this is to make a non-controversial statement about the impact of women through history. In other words, the more we can do, this wall of stories is proof that women have been making world-changing events and activity. They've been doing world-changing work all through history, and they have not, and they've been left out of the history books. So the short films means that we can make more of them. And a lot of people have come, a lot of creative people have come and sort of looked at our website and go, oh, this would make a great movie. This would make a great movie. And I encourage them. There should be a whole movie about Clara Shortridge Fultz and about most of these women. But our intention is different. Our intention is to keep it short, and so that we can say there are so many stories out there, because it was born out of this feeling of why don't we know about these women, and we want to know about all of them.
I love that. I'd also really like to give our listeners an idea of the wide range of amazing videos produced by Look What She Did by discussing a few of them. One of the videos I really enjoyed features Rachel Feldman discussing Lily Ledbetter, and I would love it if you could just tell us a little bit about that one.
Oh, sure. So Lily Ledbetter is equal pay, the sort of the face of equal pay for women. She was born in a small, very small town, very poor family. But she was a smart girl, wanted to go to college. Nobody would let her. They said girls don't go to college. So she started working at H&R Block, and within months she was managing 8 H&R Blocks, but they weren't paying her overtime. They weren't paying her appropriately. And she saw an opportunity to work for a Goodyear Tire Company, and in a development program where they would train her to be a manager. Mostly it was men. Lily was the only woman who got into this program, but by this time she was married, she had 2 kids, and she was she thought this could be the best paying job around. So I'm gonna try to do this. So she got the job. She went to the development program. She worked there almost 20 years. And right before she was going to retire at 19 years and 9 months, somebody slipped her a note that let her know that she had been paid about half what the men doing the same job had been paid for her entire career at Goodyear. And it just offended her deeply. She sued. Ultimately, she won the trial with a $3 million judgment, but then Goodyear appealed, and they won. By then, Lily is the face of equal pay for equal women. For equal work. And so the people who are with her, the lawyers who are with her and helping her, go to the Supreme Court. They take the case all the way to the Supreme Court. And she lost 5-4. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg spoke to her from the bench and said, Lily, there's another way you can change the law. Go to Congress. And Lily did. She went to Congress. She lobbied. She never saw a cent of money for what she was owed, for all the betrayal that had happened to her. She never saw a penny. She never won any money for herself. But she worked tirelessly as the face of this, as a real woman, as a woman who had been grieved. And she ultimately, when Obama got into office, that was the first piece of legislation he signed, was the Lilly Ledbetter Equal Pay Act. So that's Lilly Ledbetter. We honored her a few years ago at a Look What She Did brunch. She passed away last year, I believe. And she was the most gracious. I mean, just such a grounded woman from such a sort of a small town, and without overcoming so many obstacles, never getting anything for herself or her family, and still being dedicated her entire life to equal pay and making that difference. She made a difference. She did it. So Rachel Feldman has made a movie about Lilly, starring Patricia Clarkson. It's out right now. It's going around the festivals right now.
Well, it's such an inspiring story, but also such a heartbreaking story. And I do commend you for telling her story, because I think it's so important for women to understand that so many of their rights are because of these activists that came before them that, fought on their behalf with no benefit to themselves, just strictly for the people coming after them. So it's really just a, incredible story. Another one of the videos I really enjoyed, I mean, there's so many, they're all wonderful, but another one I really enjoyed was hearing Kate Rigg discuss Patsy Mink. And for anyone who doesn't know who Patsy Mink is, can you please tell us a little bit about her and about that video?
Oh yeah, Kate Rigg is amazing. She's one of the best storytellers. She's just so dynamic. She's actually done two of them for us. And she talks about Patsy Mink. Patsy Mink is the woman behind Title IX. Patsy Mink made Title IX happen, which has affected the lives of millions of women since it was passed in 1972. Patsy Mink was born in Hawaii. She wanted to be a doctor. She ultimately was accepted to the University of Nebraska as an undergraduate, where she was told she couldn't join the clubs with the other white students. She couldn't live in the dorm with the other white students. So she couldn't be in the student union, all that thing, because she was a woman of color. She was Japanese American. And so she started her own student union. She got all the students of color, the parents of the students of color. She got the local businesses run and owned by people of color, and they did their own student union, and they fought to get the University of Nebraska integrated, and they stopped that segregation. But so then let's see, she goes on to in pre-med, but no, let's see. So here's what happens with Patsy. So she's doing all this, and she applies to medical school. Nobody will take her. They won't take her. They won't take her. They won't take her. She says, the best thing I can do is become a lawyer and get this law changed. So ultimately she does. She goes back to Hawaii, becomes a lawyer. And then because she was married in, I don't know, I think Philadelphia or something like that, they wouldn't let her take the bar in Hawaii because her residence was, she just had every obstacle put in front of her. This beautiful, tiny little woman overcame every obstacle with just, I don't know, steadfastness, just determination. So she got herself elected to Congress. She was in Congress for many, many years. That's where she fought to have Title IX passed, which of course says no one can be discriminated against on the basis of sex in any institution that is receiving federal assistance. So that includes medical schools, that includes all the athletics, just an amazing accomplishment. She then, I think at some point, she was a secretary in the cabinet. She then also went back and was reelected into Congress. She, in fact, as Kate says in the film, the last time she was elected was after she died. That's how much people loved and respected Patsy Mink. She just this amazing woman who has made a difference in the lives of millions of people, and not a super well-known name.
Yeah, her story is also just completely incredible and inspiring. Everything that she accomplished after having doors closed in her face. And yeah, it's just amazing. And I also, although you already said it, I do want to agree with you that Kate Rigg's enthusiasm in telling the story is just absolutely, completely contagious. So, with that said, another great story is about Madam C.J. Walker. And in that case, the storyteller is Wendy Calhoun. And could you please share with our audience a little bit about who Madam C.J. Walker is and what made her so special?
Madam CJ was a Black woman born in a plantation in the South. Her parents had been enslaved on the same plantation. When she was a little older, she moved. I don't remember exactly what happened in her early life, but she moved to be with her brother. She had a little girl, she was a single mom, and she moved to be with her brothers, I think maybe in St. Louis or something. They were barbers. So she was working in the barber shop with her brothers, and her hair started to fall out. And she was a young woman, so she started experimenting with the products her brother was using to sort of, repair and save her own hair. And then what she did was she figured it out. She figured out what to do. She has no chemistry degree. She's not really educated, but she figures out the best products for the hair of Black women. And then she starts her own business. She starts, selling these products. She starts using these products to help Black women have more beautiful hair. And basically, Madam CJ grows this business and grows this community because what she didn't only sell, she started to engage the women whose hair she fixed. She engaged them to go out and sell for her. So she created this community, and Madam CJ became the first female millionaire in America, bar none. She became the first female millionaire in America doing this. And then she also, with this, so she had this great reach, and she would convene everybody, all the Black women who worked with her. She'd convene them once a year, and they would talk about their business. Of course, they were entrepreneurs, and she made each one of them an entrepreneur. And they would talk about their business, but they would also talk about their lives. And so there was this sense, even though she was a corporation, a very successful corporation, there was this sense of caring for her community. So and now we're again like in the 19 teens or something, and there's a civil rights movement, and there's marches, and she went to now as a sort of important female part of the Black community nationally. She went with Booker T. Washington to the White House to talk about anti-lynching laws. And Madam CJ basically, because she was wealthy, made a huge donation to the NAACP, the largest donation up until that point, which I think was $5,000. So she put her money back into her community. She used her brains to create not only wealth for herself, but wealth for everybody who worked for her. And then she gave it back into her community as, I think it's a lesson for some of the very wealthy entrepreneurs that we have today, the value of giving back to your community.
Well, it's another super inspiring story. One thing I love about this video is that Wendy, the storyteller, says that it's what you do that makes you beautiful. And so we certainly see that with her. And finally, another one of the videos I'd like to highlight is about Marsha P. Johnson. And in that case, the storyteller is Bree Geiger.
Oh, yeah. So this is one of our more recent films. Bree tells the story of Marsha P. Johnson, who was a Black transgender woman born in New Jersey in the 50s, I think, and moved to New York in the 60s. And Marsha was an activist at a time and showed such courage at a time when trans people were being arrested left and right, just for no other reason than they were cross-dressing in the street. So she was there with Stonewall riot that happened in the mid-60s. She was one of the leaders. So Marsha had the point of view that if the police and the powers that be were going to use guns and were going to use force and violence, then they were going to fight back. And they did, and she did. She also created, with no money either. I mean, she had no money at all and no support. People didn't even understand transgender at the time. She was simply called a drag queen, and she called herself a drag queen. She also created out of nothing a haven for young transgender people, young queer people who were coming to New York, because they were all leaving their small towns, which is what she did. She left, her family didn't understand, her small town didn't understand. So they go to New York in the hope of finding a community, which Marcia was the leader of. And she created a place, it's called STAR, STAR. She created a place that was a safe landing spot for queer youth to come in New York. Ultimately, she died in her mid-40s, and there's controversy about her death. Her body was found in the Hudson River, was officially labeled a suicide. No one believed it was a suicide. They believed she was killed. And so she is a kind of martyr to that cause. Bree tells the story. Bree is another really great person on camera, and tells the story about how important Marcia P. Johnson is to her. And Marcia said the P in her name, Marcia P. Johnson, stands for pay it no mind. Like don't take the bait when it's not going to be helpful, and stand up for your rights when you need to.
Well, again, it's another super inspiring story. And just because I did have a note here, I wanted to add that Marcia was born in 1946. And another thing I love about this video is Bree, the storyteller. She says that her pronouns are her, she, queen, and anything else you can say behind her back. And I just absolutely love that. I think it's just, it's just great. So now that we've provided listeners with a sampling of some of the great stories they can find at your website, can you please talk a little bit about how you pick the subjects and the storytellers?
Oh yeah, sure. So in the beginning, I had to beg people to do it. It's actually because a lot of people don't want to be on camera and all of that. So we would sort of gather whoever we could get to show up on the weekend and tell us about something. But as we grew, that changed, and people said, "Oh, I've got a woman I want to tell you about." And so eventually it got to be so big, we had to have we would have guest selection committees, and we would have people, we would, for example, we're doing a series on the activists in the Central Valley during the pandemic. And so we had people send in just from their phones, like a 60-second video of who they'd want to talk about. And then we had a guest selection committee go through those and sort of choose the people who would be in the series. So we've had to get to a point where we created a selection process. But what we haven't done is we never tell anybody who to talk about. We find the woman who says, I want to tell you a story, and then we let her choose and tell us who she's passionate about. And to me, that makes all the difference in our films, because occasionally we've had a group say, oh, we want to raise up this woman, and we've got somebody who's going to talk about her, and it becomes like it becomes like a little school project, and we don't want that. We want somebody to say, I love this woman because she changed my life. And that captures the passion and the relevance of the actions of women from the past, and actually, modern day as well. But it captures the relevance of those actions on the lives of real living women. It captures the idea that we need to see it so we can be it. And so we never tell anybody who to talk about. And I just always try to put them into a very grounded, heartfelt situation where they can tell us the woman's story, but also tell us why she's important to the storyteller, why we need to hear about her, why she's someone who's going to make a difference even now. And in that spirit, in order to try to sort of ground everybody, we do it in the backyard. we try to get this feeling of you're in the backyard, you're at a party, you're hanging out, and somebody says, "Oh my God, have you heard about so and so? I have to tell you about this woman. She's amazing." So we want to get that kind of off the cuff, casual feeling, and that informs the filmmaking values. So I don't worry about continuity. If somebody's got their glasses on and then they don't have their glasses on, or if they need to read from a piece of paper or something falls over, we let all that happen. I love that stuff. I love it when they crack themselves up or they're embarrassed about how much they love this woman. And so we cut in moments of no speaking. We cut in moments when they're with their hands or that kind of thing. So I really want to capture as a filmmaker that casual feeling that you're really talking to somebody who's telling you something meaningful from their life.
I love that. And how do you pick the directors and others who are involved with actually creating the videos?
Well, in the beginning, like I said, in the beginning, we had no money, so it was all volunteer. So whoever would volunteer could do it. I did most of them because I was free. And then we were dedicated to paying people. So we would, I gave chances to other people, gave chances to direct to women who had only ever directed in the theater, or to editors or producers, and that they'd watched me do so many of them that they were, able to do a few of them themselves. And then as we grew, other directors came forward and they were willing to do it either on a volunteer basis or for the very small fees that we can offer. So we've grown now over the 10 years to have more a sort of army of women, directors, editors, sound people, all of that. We've got this amazing crew that have been with us, and they work for very, 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 very little money, even though most of them are professional filmmakers. And now we have, I basically retired from executive director and artistic director in the last year or so, and we have new leadership. Deborah J.T. Padilla is our executive director, and Sarah Moshman is a young filmmaker. I think you've interviewed her. So Sarah Moshman is our new artistic director. So she's taken over the responsibility of directing the films and is doing a marvelous job. I mean, just really so happy to. I feel like I was looking for Sarah for a long time. It turns out that we started in 2014, and in 2014, Sarah was making her first documentary film, and she got a couple of women in a car with a camera and went across the country looking for stories of amazing women we never heard of. So we were basically on the same mission at the same time. And then we sort of came together a couple of years ago when we found each other, and she's taken on the leadership of Look What She Did. So she's in charge now of directing most of them and inviting other directors in. We've had some marvelous directors.
Yeah, and you are correct. We did do a podcast with her, so if anyone's interested, they could check that out. And I am wondering, how much do you estimate these days that each video costs to make, and how many are you typically able to make in a year?
Uh-huh. So in the beginning, as I said, we had no money. So we just sort of figured it out. I was working in television so that when we turned into a nonprofit, I could fund us for a little while to sort of, pay for equipment or pay the crew and that sort of thing. But eventually we were able, after we became a 501(c), we were able to apply for and start to get grants. So all of our budget comes from grants and individual donations. We do a big push for donations usually in March and Women's History Month. And so we get, probably half of our budget from individual donations and then half from a pastiche of grants. Let's see, what was the other question you had there? How much does it cost now? So in the beginning, it was so small. And then people would ask me, they said, well, I want to fund this. How much does it cost? And I would say, well, we're making it work for, $750, which of course is insane and unsustainable. So now what we've figured out is it costs about $5,000 to make each film. And that includes the payment for the crew and the payment for the leadership and all that. So if we get $5,000 for each film, then we can sustain ourselves. And with that in mind, we make something like 10 to 12 a year. So we do, that's what we've done last year. We just, last summer, we shot 10 or 11 new films, which are in the process of post right now. We have a series on the Olympics, because the Olympics are coming to Los Angeles, and so we're getting our series ready for that period, so we can promote that at the same time. And we we do that over one weekend. As I said, we can get 10 to 12 interviews over a weekend, but then it takes us a long time to do all the post because everybody's got other jobs, and so we're in the process of that. So I would say 10 to 12 a year.
Well, it's it's amazing, and it's great how you've been able to add to your collection, and it just gets better and better. Can you please tell us a little bit about the other work you do in the creative field?
Oh, right, shifting gears here. So
Yes.
I started as a playwright and a director in the theater. I did that for about 15 years. And then I moved to Los Angeles and started working in television. Mostly, I did some films, but mostly in television as both a writer and a director. So I've done that for another 20 years. And now, given the difficulties that everybody in Hollywood is facing right now, I'm fortunate to have another creative line that I'm pursuing, which is I'm writing fiction. I've just finished the second draft of a memoir. So I'm writing prose. I've been doing prose for the last, I don't know, 10 years since around the same time I started Look What She Did. I thought, like, this is all, that's where I started, was writing prose. And so I'm doing that now. I just finished this book, which is a memoir about lifelong recovery from sexual assault. And so I'm about to work with an editor, and then we would, look for a publisher after that. But I will say that in 2014, that's part of it. It harkens back to Look What She Did, because in 2014, I was sexually assaulted many, many, many years ago in 1977. And I had done some work with leading writing workshops with survivors of sexual assault, and I had done various other things. And I was trying to figure out in 2014 what I wanted to do to help women. I wanted to do something, and I somehow knew that I guess I thought I could be an advocate. I'd worked with the rape center in Santa Monica, and I thought I could be an advocate and help girls and women who had just suffered this to go through the process. But I knew that would be so painful for me, and I would be constantly in that world. So Look What She Did came out of that same impulse to help women by doing something positive, something, as I said, it's non-controversial what these women have achieved. It can't be denied that these women did these things. And so that's how I threw my energy and the love I have for women and the compassion I have for women and what they have to face in this unequal world. I put that behind Look What She Did in 2014, and that became my way of trying to make a difference for women who face just really terrible odds, lots of obstacles that men don't face. So so that's what I'm doing. I'm writing prose. I'm finishing that memoir, and I've published a few short stories. I'm very interested in getting back to short story writing. I'm still answering the phone if somebody wants to call, and I have some projects that are sort of in the pipeline in Hollywood and television. We'll see if those pan out. It's very difficult. So, meantime, I'm keeping my creativity flowing by writing prose.
Wow, it's just amazing to hear everything you're doing, and I really applaud you for, tackling such, challenging, painful subject matter that obviously, far too many women have, firsthand experience with. But, as you said, in addition, everything you've done with Look What She Did is just such a inspiring database for anyone who goes there. You can just find all these incredible, uplifting stories. So, I'm also curious, as a creative, what is the biggest obstacle you faced and how did you overcome it?
Oh, the biggest obstacle is always getting funding for your projects, is getting the gatekeepers to say yes to original work. Whether it's in television or getting a play produced or getting your book published, whatever. It's about, because you can do the work and you can really believe in the work and it can mean everything to you. And it can even be excellent work. It can be the best, most original, strong work, but still having to then pitch it and get somebody to understand it, from just simply doing a pitch or talking. That to me has always been the obstacle. So over the years, I have learned how to pitch, as much as it does not come naturally to me. And so I do my best, to try to use a piece of my brain to think about how best to convince someone to support this work that I care about so much.
Yeah, definitely getting the money. That's always such a challenge. And what advice do you have for filmmakers who are just starting out in their careers?
Start small and immediately. That's just keep working, whatever it takes. If it's a borrowed camera, if it's your backyard, if it's your story that you're writing that's going to get published in a tiny online magazine, do it. Keep working, keep working, and because it's so easy to get overwhelmed by the obstacles and the difficulty of achieving anything. Just keep working. I feel like there's like there's moments in time when the spotlight of the world just sort of may pass over you. And when it passes over you, when there's a moment where somebody goes, "Hey, Heather, what are you doing?" You need to be doing something. You need to say, "I'm working on this thing that I love so much, and here it is, and I've got this." And you can't be sort of waiting for the break. You can't be waiting for someone to help you. You have to be in the action of creation when the opportunity comes. And I think that's why that there's some kind of saying about 98% sweat and 2% I don't know what the saying is, but the idea is that you have to be creating and doing your work and growing. The process is the most important thing. And then you work for the opportunity, you work for the chance, you work for somebody to support you. But don't spend all your time doing that. Spend your time creating. So when the opportunity comes, you are the most fascinating thing people have seen.
Well, that is excellent advice. Is there anything else you would like to share that I haven't already asked? This could be anything. It could, and also if you want to tell us about any of your favorite videos on the Look What She Did site or newest videos or anything like that. Um,
I wanted to highlight this video we have. It's a wonderful video. It's Maiden Lopez on Octavia Butler. So Octavia Butler is having a moment right now in Los Angeles because in her novel, Parable of the Sower, she wrote about a firestorm in LA in 2025. And so people are rediscovering her work. Octavia Butler is just an incredible writer, a visionary. And Maiden tells us the story of her in our film. So I think you should check that one out too. Maiden Lopez on Octavia Butler.
well, I will definitely check that out. And it's certainly timely given everything going on that it has been going on in LA recently. For anyone who would like to follow your career, can you please share with us your social media handles, your website, personal website, the website for Look What She Did, anything you'd like to share?
Okay, sure. So my website is juliehebert.com, and that's Hebert, the real spelling of my name, juliehebert.com. And so I've got a website with a bunch of stuff on it. Social media on Instagram, it's Julie Abear, which is the pronunciation of my last name, Hebert, Julie Hebert, Abear. And then I think on Facebook, I have two pages. One's a professional director page, and that's just Julie Hebert with an H, the proper spelling. Both of them are under the proper spelling of my name. And then Look What She Did. We have a wonderful website where all our films are on there. You can see them, lookwhatshedid.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. LinkedIn. Yeah. So it's all under lookwhatshedid.com. Let's see. Instagram is look what _ she did. That's our handle on Instagram.
Well, this has just been an incredible conversation, and I appreciate everything you've shared with us. I just want to give you one last opportunity before we wrap up. Is there anything else you want to add before we, close it out?
Oh, I just want to thank you all for doing this, for getting the word out. I just think you're incredible, and this podcast is incredible, and I appreciate you all so much. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much, Julie. I mean, the pleasure is all ours. You're just such an inspiration, and all these stories that you're putting out to the world, they're just also so inspiring, and it's certainly much needed at this point in time for a lot of us. So thank you, and big shout out to your team and everyone who's contributed to your videos, for all the hard work. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for amplifying the stories of women.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for listening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, in its second edition, Carol Dean's popular book, The Art of Film Funding, has 12 new chapters to cover all areas of film financing and how to avoid expensive pitfalls. Learn how to start with an idea and end with a trailer, how to make an ask for money, create your story structure and your trailer, legal advice, fair use, successful crowdfunding, how to ask for music rights, and what insurance you can't shoot without. Available on Amazon under Carol Dean and at FromTheHeartProductions.com. I want to remind our listeners that David Raiklin is a brilliant and talented award-winning musician who scores films and can compose music for a trio or for a full orchestra. David is a very good friend to the independent filmmaker and comes highly recommended by From the Heart Productions. If you need music to help tell your story, please contact him at davidraiklin.com. That's David, RAIKLEN.com. And Carol and I want to thank you for tuning in to The Art of Film Funding. Please visit our website at FromTheHeartProductions.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Good luck with your films, everyone.